what's up? This is Ron. Yo, this is Micah, and this is In the Middle.
Ron, I tell you,
What's up, Micah?
It's just been a time. Your boy turned a year older, and
yes, happy birthday!
I feel the bones creaking.
I was gonna hit you with it, old man.
Gosh, man, the gray hairs are trying to add up. This is just getting out of hand. I'm gonna be a little bit more mellow, a little bit more somber than I am. I'm usually pretty excited when we have these conversations because I know we're going to get into something good, and I know we're going to get into something good, but I want to be very calm in my voice and how I speak, because I want to make sure that people understand where I'm coming from on this, all the topics that we were discussing. I'm not really heated about it, but I just want to make sure that people understand that this excited demeanor that I have, that I love to be very boisterous, and sometimes, actually a lot of times, obnoxious. It's usually just a veil to show that I really care about certain things really strongly. So I'm more than likely going to just say my piece and let you roll, because that's what I'm doing today.
That's all we can do, man. I mean, again, we back with another episode. If y'all listeners, check us out on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Be sure to hit the hashtag In the Middle PC1, In the Middle PC for podcasts, and hit us up. Let us know what you like about the podcast, what we can do better. We're always looking to improve, and let us know what we're doing good on. So, with that being said, man, it's like every time we come back, there's something else.
It's something else, man.
There's something else, and you would think
something else.
And everybody knows what the state of America is right now.
I'm not even mad.
It's hard to get. It's actually hard to get even like really irate about it anymore, because it's like you almost kind of get numb to the idea, catching it on the news, seeing another black man shot at, unarmed, just for lack of a better term, resisting, but not warranting a death sentence potentially, right? It's like,
I mean, yeah, but the reason why I don't get mad. I don't get mad because the situations, as I remember you breaking down a few episodes ago, with your former experience, that the level of rarity of the shootings, the police involved shootings, is one level. Then the level of rarity of a person that is unarmed is even rarer.
Right.
I had to keep on asking myself, even though I know I'm born a black man in America, and the country has issues, why do I keep on getting mad at the 5 people, the minute amount of folks outside of my control? Even if I was one of them, why do I keep on getting mad over that? And then I get called various names by pointing out that there's something more important that we have control over, that we can actually foster and maintain control over. I'll get into that later, but as far as just what you just said, I don't get mad because I'm numb to it. I don't get mad because I think it's stupid to get mad when the situation is not as grave as I'm being told it is. Not as it is, but as I'm being told it is. And there's a lot of people who's not going to like that opinion, because they swear up and down it's worse than COVID, but it's actually not. It's actually not.
It's not.
That doesn't mean that. Let me make it clear. That doesn't mean that it's right. I'm not saying that it's right. What I'm saying is the level of energy I give it. There's a way to work the energy so that I give it its proper due, so that we can get some justice. But some of the energy that has been expelled over some of these cases have been, in my opinion, a waste of time. Though there's some laws that's coming good about it from it. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's like how people point at like sports, right? It's easy to point at sports and see what they're doing and feel like, oh well, okay, they didn't do practice today, or they didn't, they didn't do maybe like a scrimmage, or you know, they want to maybe postpone the game or something like that. That's well and good. That's well intended to show the initial, you know, just inherent, like, just dismay of the situation, right?
Yeah.
But what are we doing? What are we doing when all of that kind of recedes, right? Well, like, who are we? What legislators are we talking to, right?
None.
Because that's the point. That's the whole point.
That's
of
the truth.
protesting,
That's the whole point.
Marching, is to assemble yourselves together under what your issue, your overall issue is, and to let people know you're unified, to see it visually, but then to take that same energy and put it to where it matters, to the people that matter, to the people that need to be influenced. Like, you can't expect to influence an overall public, right?
That's right.
I had
especially one that you say doesn't care about you anyway because of your skin color.
I had an interesting conversation with another friend of mine, and you know, he was like, he just doesn't get what how it's been like 6 decades worth of just protesting and marching, and nothing really seems to come of it, and there's still all the vitriolic reactions to people still trying to exercise their rights to protest and stuff, but we're still doing it. We're almost going in this like insanity loop of just what we initially do and what ultimately doesn't come back as the fruit of our labor, right?
I can hear that, yeah.
Like, for me too, I mean, I want to understand further about a lot of these things. I try not to jump the gun a lot of the time on what kind of flashes across the news, just because it's sexy and just because it gets eyeballs. You know, it's like with Jacob Blake. Fortunately, he's alive. You know, his family still has him, but that scenario, that whole situation, there's for me, there's like a 50-50 go at this, because you know, he could have complied after he kind of, lack of a better term, resisted them.
Yeah, initially
through 2 different levels of nonviolent, you know, apprehension. They tried to go hands-on with him, and they tried to use a taser. Didn't. Okay, so what else can you expect the cops to then progress to after that? All right,
logically.
That's just logic. Okay, then 2, on the other side of it, for me, looking at the law enforcement side of it, there are some tactics that you could debate. Okay, why are you following this dude? You're to his back. He's already said that he's trying to obtain a weapon from some area of the vehicle. Why are you continuing to put yourself in that dangerous space when you could get distance, right?
And that was when you were talking initially about the various Black Lives Matter cases that kicked this whole movement off, where you brought up the Tamir Rice situation, where the cop went in to a situation
you
where
kind of elevate your danger.
You elevate your dangers. Like, why would you go into a zone in which someone may have a gun already drawn?
Right. It's like we automatically just kind of want to go at Jacob Blake and say, oh, you know, he should have did this, he should have did that. What about what the cops should have did? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm hearing that, I'm trying to get myself safe, I'm trying to get my partner safe, I'm trying to get the public safe. If this dude is going for what he says he's going for, you know, with the intent of harming either us as the officers or the public, someone of the public, whether it's family or not, I'm trying to clear that area out so I can deal with what he may force me to have to do.
Now here's my question based on what you just said. It is, I don't know if police training just has to do it, but you did not have just basic law enforcement training from a local perspective. You had military training as well, right?
Yeah.
Do you believe that military training, you know, and people were like, oh, we're just Air Force, look, it's military. Even though it's military training, do you believe that tactical thinking, that tactical logic and reasoning, how to actually do real engagement, the rules of engagement, that helped you to see how these officers could have done a better job. Now, I'm not saying all military personnel or former military personnel make good police officers, because you've seen examples where that wasn't the case. What I'm saying is that, at least from the standpoint of understanding rules of engagement, because the military has a different level of rules of engagement than a local police officer, right? Like you have more
Right.
things to abide by, right?
Yeah, you've got Geneva Conventions, you've got international law, stuff like that. You can't engage until you're engaged, per se. Like there are different levels of it, but I mean, and I can already hear the chair horse jokes, but
Mm-hmm.
everybody still gets a found, even if you're in the Coast Guard. You know what I mean? Like, you get a foundation of just how to engage a threat and how to recognize one. Now, if you're verbally told, "Hey, I'm about to go over here and get X, Y, and Z, and jack you all up," yo, why are you sucking yourself in to that? Right? That was my first question with these officers. I get he's got a warrant, but even that is still subject, because has it been confirmed yet? Could that be a wrong name? Those things happen. Those clerical errors happen.
Yes.
So aside from him fighting you and just feeling like he's not the intended target, because I believe it was like a fight between some family members that he was trying to break up or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was understood about who was there,
Mm-hmm.
and like who may have a warrant, who may not, and that's what kind of changed the direction and elevated things towards Jacob Blake. That's my understanding, and to the point where this dude gets shot in the back those 7 times.
Yeah. Now, I want to make sure that my side of this is clear, right? You and I both agree that the end result of this, of him getting shot 7 times in the back, is not justification, especially based on the fact that he was walking away and he wasn't posing an immediate threat to the officers who had their guns drawn. So to shoot him 7 times to unload, to neutralize the threat, while that may be your training, he was not actually presenting himself a threat. Now, had he went and got his little shiv, like supposedly the camera angle showed that he had a little knife on him, and then he started coming to you, and that, and some people say that 21 feet is close, well, then light him up, because he's stupid enough to think bring a knife to a gunfight. Then okay, I mean, he has to do what he has to do. But where I fell into this was, I heard a black man got shot. I was like, oh gosh.
Like, here we go again.
Here we go, because I already know what was going to happen. And when I noticed the cycle and pattern of happening recently is, without knowing any details, you just mad that a black guy got shot by the cops. Okay, well, do we even know if this was a justified shooting or unjustified shooting? Well, no, he got shot in the back 7 times. Like, ooh, that's bad.
Like,
what led to it? What led to it? And I believe that if we got to the point, just not as black people, but just people in general, where we stop allowing certain people with certain voices and certain platforms to tell us how to think and tell us how to feel, I think a lot of these situations will be resolved in a more constructive way that doesn't result in mob mentality and mob rule. Once again, I'm not saying that Jacob Blake deserved to get shot 7 times back. In fact, in my opinion, that's an excessive use of their force. They should all be fired or severely fined and heavily penalized in some way, form, or fashion. And if he had been killed, they should go file murder charges. And honestly, I'm perfectly fine with charging with what would that be for? Because they didn't murder him; they did severely injure him.
I mean, basically they assaulted him.
But
that's subject, because, like, again,
based on the stuff that he did before they unloaded on him, it's still, especially because the reason why they got called in the first place. So here we got the narrative. The narrative was, and I want to make sure I shape where I'm coming from. The narrative was a black man got shot by a police officer. So police officers are racist. They shot a black guy. But then after the Milwaukee Bucks decided to sit out their game, they got a gentleman's sweep for their troubles, by the way, because they lost their concentration on what they were supposed to be doing. With all the Black Lives Matter and all that stuff going around, we find out that they shut up and dribbled that very next day, that Friday, that Saturday, that weekend. Well, why did they shut up and dribble and just didn't talk about Jacob Blake anymore, even though technically speaking, they still had a good leg to stand on when it comes to him getting shot several times in the back. Well, the reason why they shut up and dribble was because they found out that Jacob Blake the police were called there by a black woman. Okay, so the black woman must trust these police officers enough that they weren't just going to just come and just shoot the black man. Why did she call? Well, allegedly, because I still don't know all the facts of it, because I left it be. I know what I have dove into after the story broke. Allegedly, he committed a sexual assault and atrocity against her, and he had a restraining order that was put on him that he couldn't go within a certain amount of feet of this young lady, and he decided to go ahead and do all this anyway. Whatever kind of argument, whatever stuff they had, he decided to violate the law, and based on the law that was already put in place above him and on him, based on an alleged accusation of sexual assault. So they were going through that process of whether or not they were going to confirm or whatever he actually did or whatever, what have you. I'm sure you had to deal with this, and probably when when confirmed, when the elbow dropped.
I mean, sometimes these people don't even know they have warrants out.
Exactly, and especially with the restraining orders. I know many men who they realize they got a restraining order like when they actually show up. Especially if it's a custody situation with children. I know many men who look like us, in which the fine-looking woman who look like us use the system against us slickly and don't inform us of information. And all of a sudden, you show up to the door. Hey, I'm coming to pick up. It's like, no, you can violate restraining order.
Right. Because he had his kids. He had his kids with him.
I heard that too.
So they were in the car.
Can you imagine if they hit those kids?
I was just like, look, there's a lot of blame for Jacob Blake, right? That's easily pointed to.
Easily.
But there's also blame on the police officers too.
Yeah, and but Jacob Blake can't be blamed though.
This is it.
They don't want that. That's nuance.
You've got to still give, like, these cops were doing the right thing up until he got shot in the back.
I believe so.
The leverage of ownage of professionalism is now on the police officers, because they're not going to care, and this is me included. I'm not going to care about his record, why he ended up there, I'm not, because this dude got shot in the back 7 times, and I feel like the guy panicked. I feel like the officer panicked.
It makes sense,
because seven rounds is kind of like a.
You fear for your life. I fear for my life.
It's more of like, I feel like he just got panic finger. Like he just really like the first one kind of went, and he couldn't come off of it.
You know what that reminds me of? Remember how there'd be that guy who may have just held a bunch of hostages. He was a good guy. He was holding a bunch of hostages in the movie. He comes out. He has both hands up clearly. The lieutenant who's supposed to be in charge is telling people don't shoot. He's not a threat. He drops the gun, and all of a sudden, because the gun dropped, there was this one nervous rookie that shot first, and then all the people in the police force likes the guy up.
Yep.
And people was like, "Well, no, that can't happen in real life." Well,
that happens.
But
when you get in a situation like that, you don't even really hear. Like, your senses kind of get so narrowed. Like, you're just trying to look at what you feel like is dangerous. It's I forget what they call that effect. It's like it's like shell shock almost. Like, you just kind of, you don't even really hear what's going on around you. Tunnel vision.
Like a tunnel vision.
Yeah, but you're hearing, like, all that stuff just kind of goes to the wayside, and I'm sure
you just focus on what could possibly be the main threat.
Yes, you're so intently focused that your functions get really, really heightened. And I mean, even in my case, when I had my situation, it was, I felt like I heard so many shots, but in actuality, when it's put on paper and all the forensics, it's like, oh yeah, I actually shot this many times that I sincerely don't remember even hearing.
And that situation when you been up, man, I was so scared for you, because when I heard, I was like,
And I mean that really even for the most inclined trained person, like that still happens to you. Like it's a bodily fun. You can't fight that. It's
So wait, hold on. I want to make sure I make this clear so I can understand. You're saying that you, with your combination of military, your military training, your police training, and your empathy for Black Americans in this country
still happens.
Still got to a point where when the shot rang, you was like, well, him or me.
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
there is a possibility that you can be empathetic to Black people, still be a law enforcement officer, want the best for Black people, but when the situation hits the fan and you just saw a guy, after you tased him, after you try to physically take him down, then the guy gets hit by a car and he gets up and looks at you and still runs at you, that maybe, just maybe.
Now here's the caveat to what you just said.
Yeah, I know. I was about to.
He's running at me. He's running at me.
He's running at
you. And I can visually and mentally articulate like some kind of weapon, right? And and the intent to be used against me. Okay, like those are critical elements in this. Whereas people like Jacob Blake, those elements visually you don't see them. Like how when you're shooting someone in the back, for starters. Like just try to reasonably rationalize that to someone when they're asking you, well, did you see the weapon? Whether it was a firearm or a knife or nunchuck or whatever, did you see it? Could you have actually seen it with his back to you? Like, even when he's walking to the car, he's got like I don't know if it's his keys or if it's like some type of knife. There's no way that officer can see that from his perspective behind him.
Yeah, no.
Like
I'm totally
there's no right. So it's like we can understand that everybody in the public can understand how police are trained on a fundamental level.
Yes.
Right. Bad guy pulls out a gun. You know, even if you go shooting targets, there's a guy holding a gun facing you, either pointing it at you or at somebody else as a hostage. Those elements are present, right? Like, it's inherent that that's what you have to have. And then when you don't have it, please, I don't care what this guy may have done before, what his record was. What made you think that was appropriate to do given that circumstance, and how he's basically not even worried about you? He doesn't even know where you are at that point.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, like you gotta be pretty weak when, because you gotta be pretty weak when dude fights y'all off, the taser fails, and then he doesn't even think that y'all a threat. He just walks away from you.
He just walks away from y'all.
Now, granted, he did. If he yelled a threat at you, then he's gonna make. I guess he's getting materials to defend himself. But you know,
it's like if he's not a thing. If you stay exactly where you are when he walks away from you, he's less and less of that much of a threat to you and your body and your person.
Yes.
Okay, like this is where it starts to get in the realm of the professionalism aspect, and where qualified immunity, where does the buck stop on that?
Yes.
Because you're not critically thinking like you should as a quote unquote professional.
Yeah.
To understand the scenario before you. Like
you have to be able to have those factors. You got to be able to have those factors as a professional to be
right. And if you
you
cannot recognize that, even at the heightened state of awareness and sense of threat and all of that, all that considered, you still have to be able to discern that.
At the very least, like he still had to be some sort of a threat in order for you to unload like that. Well, to even shoot one, let alone seven, he had to be an actual legitimate threat.
Right,
and be a guy.
And people ask me like, oh, so you're just supposed to let him get the gun and let him potentially shoot somebody? Not necessarily, but you got to have the evidence. Right, you have to allow the evidence to present itself.
Yeah.
Now,
and this way it protects you as the professional from being accused and labeled as something that you most likely were not up until the point where you made the wrong decision.
Right.
And here's, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, and I wanted to touch on what you said, because all this, when it comes to the cops perspective, I agree with you. But there's one perspective that here's where I disagree with you on, and this, people disagree with you on. I think that every one of these police of all shooters are different, right? And each of them have their own unique set of circumstances as to why it got to certain points.
Yeah.
So I there's some similarities to this situation when I recall another situation of Alton Sterling. And when Alton Sterling got shot, while his criminal record and all his stuff in the past didn't have nothing to do with the moment, in the moment, one of the things that supposedly was the circumstances of why he got into a position where the cop felt like when he was clearly on the ground, clearly doesn't look like a threat, he still had to shoot him in the back, was supposedly he was brandishing a firearm, supposedly, right? Supposedly brandishing a firearm. Now, I believe that's BS.
Yeah.
However, I understand. I'm still looking at it. I'm saying, okay, from the lens of a person who doesn't have a lot of good conflict resolution training, you go there thinking the dude is brandishing a firearm. And just like we talked about with human rights, you're dumb enough to get close to the guy and put yourself in a harm way to try to figure out whether or not he has a gun. Why don't you wait several feet back in your car where you have some kind of protection where you can
I mean, and it's not like you don't know, the call came in that way.
The call came in that way, so maybe protect yourself as you're going into it. So Alton Sterling ends up passing away because his shots were fatal. Jacob Blake's gonna be paralyzed. But what I'm noticing here is that in the moment, not their past, not anything that they did, in the moment, these two gentlemen, Foley, because they did, whatever. They did the resisting, they did whatever happened because they felt like they were not in the wrong and blah, blah, blah. All that stuff happened the way it happened. But everything that they did, based on the way the police came, heightened the situation of what they were already called there to do. That's what I'm saying when it comes to that. I think what's in the moment or the circumstances for that moment matter. What they did 4 days ago ain't got nothing to do with it. What they did 3 weeks ago ain't got nothing to do with it. Same thing with the Floyd situation that kicked all this stuff off. When George Floyd was arrested in that moment, what was the thing he was doing in the moment that may have led to that? Well, as more and more video came out, he hopped out the daggone car. Why did he hop out that police car? Why did he get out of the police car? Now, none of this is to say that Alton Sterling deserved to be shot, that Jacob Blake deserved to be shot, and that George Floyd deserved to have a knee on his neck causing eventual death.
Right.
Or, none of these things justify the situation, but we have to, I believe, just as logical people, understand that as we get more information, we have to be willing to say, yeah, that was wrong on that guy's part. That was wrong on that girl's part. You want to know why I can never say that it was wrong on Breonna Taylor's part? Because Breonna Taylor being with a drug dealer formerly as an ex-boyfriend ain't got nothing to do with why they only shot. When they raided her ex-boyfriend's places, when he was doing, and they did a massive bust. They were going after all his locations that they knew of at that time. That was the only place where someone got shot and killed. And the reason why is because the boyfriend, now that I realized some more information, boyfriend shot at the people that was unidentified because he thought it was the ex. So he shot thinking it was the ex-boyfriend who he know was a drug dealer. And because of her past circumstances, because of her past relationships, they, the guy who she was with currently shot thinking about her past. And then her past caught up with her in the form of police bullets. Did that mean that in that moment she deserved to be shot and killed? No. But the circumstances that determined it at that moment were real. Her boyfriend at the time shot first because he didn't know who was there coming into the daggone spot. But at the same time, let me out with this. Did they
shouldn't have even been at their house though.
Yeah, I know, but help me out. They came to it because with her past relationships, they thought that maybe he hid some money there that she ain't know about.
Nah,
and I doubt that.
They had even on the affidavit when you look it up, they should have been in another house.
It should have been in another house. So this one was definitely wrong house.
The warrant that was drawn up had the incorrect address.
So now we got clerical error things that happen in matter of the moment. Clerical error, engagement error, and then mistaken identity from both boyfriend and the police. Because you get shot at, you police officer, you go to shoot back.
Dare I say incompetence on the police department?
Yeah, no, I'm agreeing with you. Yeah, I'm agreeing with you.
What I'm saying is like there's I feel like in the vacuum of like what people did to precipitate some things, it kind of overshadows the incompetence level of the police departments involved or the officer involved in particular cases. It's like, oh well, this, that, and that. Well, what about the cop though?
Yeah,
I don't think there's enough. I don't think there's enough levied on that side of the bridge either. Especially when you got these shootings in the back, and you got basically a whole judicial system working against the public in the worst possible way, right? You've got a judge signing off on a warrant that she's not even sure about. The sergeant wasn't even sure about it when he drafted it up. The information that was obtained from the CI was incorrect. So there's all these failures professionally
that led to this one person's death.
Right.
That led to that one person's death. Now, granted, we know why initially it got to that point. But no one, if all the other houses that were served, all those places that were served, including the place where they got the ex-boyfriend, and the ex-boyfriend didn't die, then once again, so, and this is what I was trying to explain to somebody. It's like I think one of the main reasons why, outside of the gesture of Breonna's law with the no-knock warrants, outside of what we're seeing very thankfully in places like Virginia now that they passed in the House, it's going to the Senate, of dismembering qualified immunity, which I think is just a really good step in the right direction because it holds professionals accountable for being professional. And it holds them to a standard where they can actually get some actual consequences for their incompetence, for their actions, which is what they need so that they can improve their product, improve their part of the society. But this is what I was trying to tell someone when it came to Breonna, as far as her getting personal criminal justice. I don't think it's going to happen, only because, and people they swear up and down, I don't want justice for the girl. The current boyfriend shot first. Granted, because he didn't know who was there, but that's their out. It's their out when it comes to getting criminal. I think that's their out when it comes to the criminal aspect. Civil-wise, I don't think it is.
I believe that it's going to be more of making sure that they understand who blindly fired.
Okay.
Because, again, the level of professionalism here still comes into question.
Yes.
They're going to take a look at that entire scene, figure out where every single bullet went. Okay, they understand, obviously, where some of them went, as we all understand, unfortunately. But what about the other multitude of rounds that were fired? And from whom? And why some seem to end up in the ceiling, some seem to end up in the kitchen, to the left side of where the boyfriend was shooting from.
And they have body cam for this?
There's one officer that was on that no-knock warrant that did have a body cam on.
Okay.
Now, whether that was actually activated or not is still up for debate.
Oh, gosh.
But he does, because they have to take pictures of everybody involved.
Yeah.
Whether you fired or not, you were there. So everybody gets a picture taken by forensics as you are. And he had a body camera on his left shoulder.
Okay.
So there's that, but there hasn't been a lot of information about what angle he was at, where exactly in the line, if he was even in the raid line, as far as like going into the residence.
Yes.
So it might be a moot point. He might not have even been at a vantage point to capture anything. And it was also dark.
Yes.
When they did it, it was the wee hours of the morning. So, you've got all those elements, but it's very.
So is the AG important. Not pursuing prosecution right now because he doesn't have the evidence, or you think he's just not going to pursue it? He's got to take some.
I feel like he wants. I feel like he wants to pursue, but he's just kind of blocked right now because he doesn't even know who to target. Like if I was him,
okay,
which officer am I going to target for this? because I've got to understand the ballistics of this, and I've got to understand what bullets impacted Miss Taylor.
Yes.
And basically what trigger was it from?
So in this case, it's not a matter of whether or not I can prosecute the case. It's a matter of what I can actually prove.
Right.
See, I brought that up. See, I brought that up
bring
too.
the wrong charge. You don't want to blanket charge it.
I brought that up with these same people who are these extra pro-black people that will follow and walk and that will follow the water that LeBron James pees out of and will lap it all up and hear Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. I was like, y'all do know that it could be hard for him to try to figure this out. Oh, he a coon. But what if he actually wants to part?
On the surface,
it does seem like it.
Definitely presents that. Let's not even play. This is like one of those brothers from like Get Out, right? Like you wanna dap him up, but he wanna shake your fist, like. So, just with that being said, that's the surface.
Leave that guy alone, man. Not every brown skinned person comes from Compton and raps and smokes.
But you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. There could be some legit things that he wants to do legally, but he's also kind of posed.
That he's kind of about, and you don't have to be a lawyer to kind of understand that. You've got 3 different officers that fired.
Mm-hmm.
Haphazardly, that's a fact. There are bullets all over the place, none of which actually hit her boyfriend. Okay, so
crazy. So the person that actually opened fire didn't get hit.
So yeah, so you've got no professional bearing. Mm-hmm. Obviously, they're not down the sights at all. They're just basically blind firing to get out of the way and to hope that the incoming fire stops. Mm-hmm. Right. So you bring all of that in, and I think I want to say that's why he's got the FBI there to help him to collect this forensic evidence and have it done as expedient as possible. Because trying to do that through the state probably take forever. It probably take even longer than it has right now. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I just think that the FBI has been behind the curve because they were brought in late.
Yeah. Okay.
Local authorities they took care of the scene. They marked all the bullet casings and the holes and everything. So they've got to collect all that evidence, understand it first, and then really dive into it, and then wait for ballistics. Because the ballistics don't get priority. They're right in line. The state's office is gonna take it as it comes in, and however many cases are ahead of it, I dare I say, unless the governor said to expedite this or something.
Or same thing like what happened in Ferguson with Michael Brown, where the DOJ, the full Department of Justice, came. Yeah, we're gonna get this one solved. We're gonna figure it out. It's
gonna have to be something like that, which we know is not necessarily gonna happen with this.
No, not with this administration. This administration don't care about that.
So at first initially I was a little pissed at Damian Cameron, just for the lack of just empathy, it seemed like, because he didn't even really talk to the family for a very long time.
Well, we got to be honest. If we're being honest with ourselves, how many people who have, black or white, who have established themselves as upper level type people in society really take the time to pretend like they're empathetic? A star athlete of a basketball team would send out well wishes and send out a tweet. Like President Trump actually called Jacob Blake's family. Granted, we know why it was publicity stunt, but he actually took the time to call Jacob Blake's family at the very least. Joe Biden didn't call Jacob Blake's family, for what I understand. He just
right, but
he's trying to figure out how to put it.
I'm just reach out. What's wrong?
Even if you don't have a conflict of interest because he's going to be prosecuting the case. Maybe someone would be like, "Oh, you're a conflict of interest because you black, she black, and the victim is black. You showing special."
I feel like, listen.
Didn't Brock Turner have a special favor? Didn't Brock Turner get a special favor?
I mean, but I'm just listen. You can't. We are in, like you were, you said before. We're in certain levels of the establishment. of
Yes,
power.
we are.
Right? We're state's attorneys, we're prosecutors, local level judges, stuff like
Yeah.
that. We're sheriffs. There's no reason to expect for it not to go that way when it's your people. Okay? I hate to say that.
No, but we've seen this done with other groups of people that are not necessarily just white Americans. We've seen it done with other groups of people. Look.
There's
People need to understand something. Life ain't gonna be fair.
Level of nepotism.
Life is not going to be fair to you. Okay, a life, as a lot of times, is a combination of what you personally know and can control and who you know. Not necessarily who you control, but it's mostly what you know and can control and who you know. And trust me when I tell you, for example, you, Ron, have established a lot of different relationships in law enforcement. So I understand if you go down to your former district and something happens to happen and then you kind of name drop a little bit here and there to make sure, even though there's been some changes there, but I can understand if something go down that you would have a little bit more of an advantage because you used to wear blue. And not only did you used to wear blue, you didn't necessarily grift for blue and stand behind the blue wall of silence, but you were making sure that you were one of the ones that if someone needed someone they could trust, I'm sure you were one of the trustworthy ones that was in the department. So I'm sure that there will be someone who'll be able to vouch for you. That's just having a relationship. I knew people. One of the main reasons why I was able to get some of the jobs I got is because I had friends in high places. It happens. And yes, they were black like me. And you want to know something? White folks have these things in place already.
And they do it anyway.
And they do it anyway. And we have these things in place. And with those of us that we trust and associate with, we do it for them. That's why certain people get up in certain places that make, like, for example, Maverick Carter. If you don't know who Maverick Carter is, that's fine. Look him up. Maverick Carter ain't got nothing of any substance to him. But he's a friend of LeBron James. And LeBron made sure he put him on. And Maverick Carter made sure that he made the most of the opportunity instead of squandering it. So in the realm of nepotism, someone give you the opportunity and you squander it, they ain't gonna give you that, to me chance. So LeBron put his people on, they came up. Jay-Z had some people he put on, they came up. Beyonce left her people behind because she was a better star. but you get what I'm saying. So I am a fan. I am an enthusiast of if you have a mass power and you have people you want to bring along with you, great. That's just the way societies have functioned. And if you don't think that it should function that way, well, then you don't read history well, do you? And I'm just being honest with that. And that's kind of funny that we talk about the nepotism aspect because I brought up, we was talking earlier about Candace Owens and Jamel Hill.
Oh yeah.
And people say, well, how you talk about this? Well, the reason why we were talking about it, Ron showed me a video of Jamel Hill talking about
she was on Vlad TV.
Vlad TV, and Vlad was giving her the talking points so she can go ahead and roll and pretend like she's woke and like she cares about black people. Look at her husband, see how much she cares about people like me and Ron. But anyway,
love is love, man.
I refuse. I'm not saying that catchphrase because there's certain groups of people that are trying to use that to justify certain behaviors with kids, and they will never.
No,
love ain't love.
We ain't even going. No,
love ain't love. They don't get that. No, I'm just saying.
You can cross the racial boundary and stuff.
No, you gotta watch. Oh no, her husband ain't white. Her husband ain't white, but it's close. But I mean, I ain't got no problem with it. I just always find it interesting that some of the biggest and strongest voices when it comes to, blackness doesn't seem to want to marry their own kind or doesn't want to seem to be truly associated with their own kind. Jesse Williams, Black Girls Imagine. Anyway, hey, look, and once again, right? I may not always like his politics and stuff, but I will, if you want to know why I keep on bringing up LeBron James, because it's a brother that has the fruit in the tree. I don't care if he does it for publicity purposes. I don't care if he does it for image purposes. I wish he'd say a little bit more about China, actually have the brass to actually say something about it, because we talk about human rights violations all the time. But whatever, at the very least, His wife's black, his whole family's black. He wants to be a strong black male father, and he built a school that he doesn't fully support, but he still offers a good portion of financial support to make sure that the school still runs. And it gives intelligent, smart, and gifted black children the same opportunity that gifted white kids have. And that gifted Jewish kids have, and that gifted Muslim kids have, and that gifted, whatever that gift group is inside that in particular demographic, they have an opportunity now to be beyond the school. And there's folks who don't like me saying it, and most of the folks who don't like me saying it are white liberals, because they wanted me, and I explained this so many times to some people. It's like, you as a white person who I know leans liberal, because the way you're talking to me, you're talking arrogant, like I don't know better for myself. You are saying that you rather black and brown kids who have gifts of intelligence in different areas stay stuck in a crappy environment instead of allowing their parents to choose and give them an opportunity where they can go. There's a different way to work the vouchers, and I don't believe charter schools should have taxpayer funds that is from the same pool. So like, if you're a charter school and you want taxpayer funds, the only taxpayer funds you should get are the people that go to your school. You shouldn't be getting the full pool or any tap into the pool of the taxpayer money. Like, I don't think that's fair to the public schools who are actually trying and who are actually succeeding. That's just me. If you want to make it fair, make it fair. But anyway, we talk about Candace Owens and Jemele Hill, and I said they were the same woman. And you disagree with that. And I wanted to point out, that there's points that Jemele Hill make that I agree with, and there's points that Candace Owens make that I agree with, and I believe they're both broken clocks. That they could be right still at least twice a day, but I still believe they're both broken clocks. And the reason why I believe they're broken is because both are black women who have shaped their worldview based on what's been told to them, and then what presented the best opportunity for them at the time. So in the case of Candace Owens, who actually is a leftist, but there's a lot of proof and evidence that shows that she's actually a leftist. That's just
such a leftist.
She's actually a leftist. But y'all, there's some folks who think that she's on the right. She's not. But anyway, so
that's why they didn't have her come to the RNC.
Exactly. So she's actually a leftist who's pretending to be a right winger so that she can go ahead and amass political power, because she's thinking that, just like with the old Trump quote that may or may not be an actual real quote, when he said when he runs for president, he's going to want to run Republican because Republicans are stupid.
Right.
So Jemele Hill is a leftist liberal, and who actually stays on a leftist liberal, but her rise and her claim to fame has been how she's been vehemently going after President Trump while she was signed to a major network. And here's my opinion: unlike one Colin Kaepernick, who pretended, and this is my opinion, who pretended to risk his job, she actually did lose her job with ESPN because she was going to express her views about President Trump. Whether I agree with him or not, she can say what's wrong, and she actually risked her job. Now she writes with the Atlantic, I believe, so she still has the income coming in. She's still a good columnist. I'm not taking anything away from her ability.
She still got a podcast too.
So like, she's still able to make a living for herself. But her main cash cow was that ESPN contract. By the way, ESPN is going woke again, so they bring her back to do a Colin Kaepernick production, like documentary.
Well, it's only right. I mean, hell, look at what Goodell said. Roger Goodell, the commissioner for the NFL.
Oh, he's just saying that. I don't know if he means that or not.
I don't think he means it either, but I think it was he made it a point to say it, that they should have listened to him.
They ain't have to listen to him
more than they did.
I'm like,
why? Why even say that? Why even say that now?
Yeah, that's dumb. Like, all you had to do was sweep it on the rug.
It's obvious that you should have listened to him, but
I'm trying to figure out listen to him for what? Because like, when people actually, like, when people got over the fact that when people finally listened to what he said, and then because there were a lot of black folks that was denying. Black folks and white folks that was denying, that wanted to support him. Like, it's never about the flag. It's like his very first words out his mouth was he wasn't kneeling for a flag. It was about the flag, because the flag was a representation. The flag was a representation of everything that he did not like about this country,
about America. But he's not. He wasn't out there to like just say, the flag is.
No, but I'm saying that. But I'm saying that the whole point of understanding the use of words and how wizardry works is that You know, when someone tells you, well, he never really kneeled because of the flag, and then you say back to the person, he literally said in his first initial quote when he didn't know what the hell he was talking about, that it was about the flag and about what the flag represented for him. It's like, well, that wasn't the case. It's like, okay, so we're gonna go in circles because you want justice for a dude who is pretending to be, you know, we'll put it like this. I know how someone views somebody when the best they can tell me about this person is that he's vegan. The whole sports argument about this guy. Now, let me make this clear. I believe Colin Kaepernick had a trash football team that he played for in his last few seasons. And when you're a quarterback on a trash team, unless you're a transcendent talent like an Aaron Rodgers, a Patrick Mahomes, a Deshaun Watson, where you can mask a lot of that stuff, I don't believe that Colin Kaepernick was a transcendent talent. I do believe that he was at least a top 15 quarterback in the NFL, and that the only reason why he was not formally blackballed, but no team was going to pick him up, was because he wouldn't shut up and play football. You know what I'm saying? Whereas he was the figurehead of what was going on in the NFL at the time, and they didn't want the distraction. And as always, when it came to the NFL, teams will sign people who have been accused of double murder. They will sign people who are accused of sexual assault. In fact, they will praise a person who was accused of sexual assault 2 times to call him a future Hall of Fame quarterback. But if he fought dogs, all of a sudden he's a bad human being. Same team that had 2 different kinds of quarterbacks, but one that that assaults a woman is better than the person that killed dogs. There's all kinds of layers that to the NFL, if your talent exceeds your distraction, they are willing to let it go. But I didn't mean to get on that Colin Kaepernick thing. I have a whole thing about him and when I would believe to be fake woke athletics and how they abuse people. You can't just tell me that Colin Kaepernick was a vegan and then that settled the argument about how great he is for black people. Like, what does veganism got to do with helping black people? That has nothing to do with helping black people. What does him sending supplies to Somalia got anything to do with black people in America that are supposed to be oppressed and subjugated? What is him getting $20 million from Nike, a place that is funded primarily and pretty much might as well be owned by a country that is practicing the violation against black
deflection. It's the ultimate deflection.
It is a very ultimate deflection.
It's just take away from what the point is.
The point was that he was police brutality, which we all agree with.
We all agree that a lot of even on this smallest scale, when you compare it to how many active police officers work at any given hour in America, okay, it is a very small number, okay, but at the same time, it's a number that I think and feel shouldn't even be as high as it is. Okay, whether you're black, white, Mexican, whatever.
There shouldn't be an average of 300 black people and 500 white people killed every single year.
It shouldn't
by police officers.
And it's like
unless they were the ones who were attacking the police officer.
Yeah, I'm like, because when you present that to someone and you just present that statistic to them, and you're like, look, it really isn't just a black thing. It's a lot. It's all walks of life that come in contact with police officers in given situations. Okay, and it's even higher for those same demographics with mental disabilities. Yes. Okay, and mental stress. Okay, it's seen as just an immediate threat for a mental party who it might not be in their right mind. That they might be off their meds for a week. Whatever the case may be, you might not even look like a police officer to them. You might be looking like Sasquatch to them. You know what I'm saying? So it's these scenarios that when I'm trying to talk to people about it and just really give them a balance, like unbiased look at, like, okay, well, why do you think this officer shot this mentally ill person who is unarmed, probably naked, no clothes on, just out of their mind? Like, why do you think that cop decided to shoot them?
Oh, they don't care about that.
Like,
why would they care about that?
But the point is, hey, this is a problem overall. That this, you could call the police for your mentally unstable cousin and end up getting them killed. Like, nobody wants to pump the brakes on just that statement right there and say, whoa. And I dare I say, if it ain't really a white problem, it don't really get addressed appropriately.
Well, no, I mean that's why we saw the difference between the crack epidemic and the opioid crisis.
Right. It's like,
It's two different kinds of responses.
Opioids. They need help. They need actually clean places to indulge in. Syringes and things that make it a safe space and all of that. And don't put them in jail and blah blah. But then when you, like you said, when you contrast that with heroin or with crack,
I think one of those.
It's like subjugated and vilified.
But you know what I think another one of those layers were is when it came to the opioids has a certain level of financial and corporate backing and government backing that crack and heroin does not. And what I mean by that is it's actually documented and factually funded and legally funded, But we know based on other documents from other organizations in the government how crack was supposed to be fueled into the Black community and how it was supposed to be used as a tool and a weapon. And so one of the best ways you can go ahead and stop this and make it equal across the board when it comes to it is just end the drug war. So boom, there you go, you end the drug war.
Yeah.
Second thing,
it comes right back to laws.
It comes right
back to effectively changing the laws that govern you. Whether you're Black, white, Asian, brown, it don't matter.
And that's why even though I got on a tangent about Jamel Hill and Candace Owens because they're the same girl. One that just has better hair because Jamel has way better hair than Candace. But I mean she does. I mean some of it's weed, but at least it's well.
Hey,
I don't know what Candace was rocking.
I don't know what
some kind of Shih Tzu hair look. But anyway, but the third thing I pose to you as far as a topic that we can really discuss and dive into, because Candace and Jamel is that's easy follow, right?
Right.
But I told you, say, hey, I think one of the things that we miss a lot of times is there are certain things that we can control. And then there's certain things that we can't control. But I believe fundamentally that if we take care of the things that we can control first, then everything else will be under our control afterwards. And let me give some expansion on that. I don't know how to actually grow food. I didn't know for a long time. And for a long time, I didn't know where food came from. I thought food came from the grocery store. Oh, I dabbled and tried some gardening when I was a kid and things like that. But not until this Rona hit that I actually said, okay, I need to know for a fact kind of how, weather patterns and changes, seasons, what's good to plant, what's not good to plant. I need to experiment. I need to figure out how to build, and I need to figure out how to secure a way to grow something, to learn how to kill whatever it is I need to kill around my way, and gut it and clean it and gut it and take the different parts, preserve it, and I need to figure those things out before the end of this year. And I felt that it was important because I didn't have any control over how the government was going to respond to the pandemic.
Right.
I didn't. I just didn't. I didn't know how, if we were going to be supported. I didn't know if I was going to have to figure out how to do some grunt work, some menial labor to break my back so that I can make sure my family's taken care of, because there was going to be some jobs that weren't going to be coming around because of this. Very fortunately, I'm in a field that is supported enough, that I can make something happen, but I'm still not going to rely on this. There's some other things I'm going to have to do. But what's in my control? I can control my work ethic, what I learn and intake, because this is not 1945, 1930, where someone can walk up to me, see me with a book and then burn it and tell me that niggas don't read. There's no one, and let me make sure to make this clear, because some folks don't believe this. There is no one stopping you right now from accomplishing what it is that you want to accomplish. Oh, that doesn't mean that there's not going to be roadblocks. There's not going to be jerks along the way. There's not going to be people who are going to try to set things up. But currently, right now, based on the factual evidence of the system that has been in place and the laws that have been passed, there's absolutely no one stopping you from learning a new skill, developing your own business, developing ways to make money, developing the ways to barter system, or to make yourself marketable. There's nothing. And if you say there is, I'm going to call you a name that you're not going to like, because you're the true traitor to the people that you say you want to support. Because at no point in time have I been held back by any kind of ethereal being that was not myself from accomplishing what I was able to accomplish. So the last 4 months, I was able to produce near 20 to 30 pounds of potatoes. I mean, not potato. I keep saying it's potatoes. It was tomatoes. I don't know how I get those two confused. Are tomatoes necessarily a cash crop that I could feed my family with forever? No. But I figured it out.
Right.
I didn't make as much zucchini as I would like. My beets are still taking a little bit of time. But I figured out how to build raised garden beds from scratch with free material. Do you know that wood is
being
free?
Self-sustained.
So I didn't know wood was free. You know what else is free? To a certain extent, dirt. Dirt's free. Dirt's all around me.
Yeah.
But for some odd reason, I keep on being told by people who are well-meaning and don't look like me that someone is going to come and find me. They're going to find my garden. They're going to burn my garden and put a burning cross in my yard because they don't like you because you're black. And I'm like, but no one's came and bothered my garden. No one's came and messed with my grass. No one's came and messed with my smoker. In fact, people came and tried to figure out if I was selling the barbecue that I was smoking. Like, I keep running into things that I know I can control.
Yeah, I mean,
and I
we
believe,
are in different times.
I believe that what's going on here, Ron, and I'll close my section with this. I believe what's going on here, Ron, is that the group of people that's rioting and burning and looting and are mad have been told one of the greatest lies that was ever made.
Yeah.
As a person who believes in God and Jesus and Yeshua, yes, I know his Hebrew name was Yeshua. God dang, man. As a person who believes in that, I believe one of the best things the devil ever did, his greatest trick, was to convince the world that he does not exist. For the last 60 years, as black people have infiltrated, black Americans, I want to be very specific because Kamala don't count, no matter how much y'all try to tell me. Even on Joe Biden's ad, he said,
"Come on, man,
Joe,
you know the 1% rule."
Sleepy man. Joe Biden said on his own daggone advertisement that she is an Indian American. She could be the first Indian American vice president. He said that out of his own daggone mouth, so he don't even know what kind of vice president he got. Anyway, that was just a joke. That actually is true. It's really funny. But it's Joe Biden, so he don't know anything. But you know, there is the greatest trick that has ever been told to black people by white liberals and black liberals and by the liberal elite. I want to be very specific, by the elite alike, has been: you can be president of the United States and still be a nigga. And I mean it. And I mean a heart. And I mean a heart, y'all. It's the greatest trick. It's the greatest trick ever told.
Kanye said it too, man.
The man with an African,
being the biz, just
an American mother, a white American mother, who grew up predominantly who grew up, a lot of was supposed to be born in Hawaii, did not grow up in the atypical black circumstances. Graduated at some of the highest levels at Harvard. He smokes weed. He plays basketball. He was community organized. Got himself a black wife. Was still supposed to be treated like, and I know this is a hard word, but I got to use the word because I want to understand where people come from when I say this. Was still supposed to be a nigger. And at no point in time was this man ever that. He was never that. He didn't carry himself like that. He didn't portray himself like that. He didn't even have the characteristics of that. Even when he was trying to be hood-ish, when he was trying to be hood and talk slick and talk smooth, he was never that. Neither am I, neither am Ron, neither is any black person who has accomplished anything at a great high level. That word is reserved for people who, one, haven't accomplished anything in a lot of people's eyes, and two, to degrade those who have accomplished to make them feel like they're still inferior. And I'm sorry, my president was black. My vice president at one point was black. Well, close, got a close one anyway. Got a close one anyway. My first lady was black at one point. I had several district attorneys, district attorneys, judges, DAs, attorney generals, surgeon generals, and other kind of representation in the highest level of government as black. I've had
Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Joint Chiefs of Staff. I've had secretaries of state. I've had people. One of the There's a lady who was a Secretary of State for a Republican president that was so daggone good at her job, they made her one of the heads of a football committee that determines the national daggone championship four-play final. But for some odd reason, you are to tell me that she is still a nigger? No. I reject it. I
know you reject it, but that's the state
of
America.
It's a lie. It's a lie.
It's what's led to Trump. It's the counterbalance to so you think you done made it, or nah, we're gonna bring you back to reality with what we feel like should be in the White House and what should be leading America, regardless of how idiotic he is. Okay, like that's what this was. This was a full pendulum swing at the highest speed, the highest level you could have, to say we don't care if this dude is out here being a sexual predator, he's a fraud, he defrauds people millions.
That's why the other one just wanted the same thing all over again.
That's like they don't care because he is a white dude. I'm telling you.
You really think that's it?
Dude, seriously. How if you just put Trump and all of his wonder on a piece of paper and all of his exploits, right?
Mm-hmm.
You had no idea what his skin color was, okay? Versus somebody like Obama, right? Mm-hmm. He goes to law school. He doesn't have any sitting indictments. He's not, on recording as being a sexual predator or being in circles of sexual predators. All of these things, right?
Yeah, that's fine. So you can choose the better human being, but I don't think it was just a racial thing.
Most people
why he got elected
are gonna say, "I'd rather have this guy over here. He seems a little bit more trustworthy." Okay,
of course.
But when you look at it, when you say, "Oh, who would I want to be president?" Yeah, you end up with Trump anyway because of the visuals, the optics of it, and what it means. He's an old, rich white dude. It's like the epitome of just what America is rooted in, right?
So do you think that? Hold on, wait. So for 8 years, wealthy white people, middle class white people, and low class white people all voted for President Obama because he was black and anyone. So
if you look at the numbers,
let me say it again. So white people in general, because the majority of the demographics that vote are still white, regardless of how most we want to make it seem like that we put Obama in office, we didn't. So because we didn't put him in office, the majority of the people who put him in office were white from various districts, whatever have. And now when I say this, people will be like, "Oh, you're denying racial as an aspect." It's like, no, I believe that people are multidimensional beings, and that there's more to it than just for the fact that he was just a white guy. Because I believe that if we keep on going to the same trauma-induced thought process, that it has to be because he was white, we miss a lot of other things that are inside of our control to do. So I believe that there were white people, well-meaning white people, some Republican white people, there were Republican white people, Democrat white people, independent white people, all different kind of levels, walk of life, whatever have you, that voted for President Obama the first time, not out of a guilt trip, but because they were tired of the Republican and Democrat establishment. Because if we really look at it, the last two presidents, President Trump and President Obama, weren't really, while President Obama was a senator, was he really establishment? It didn't seem like he was really establishment.
Nah, he was very low key.
Because when he did run, who did he pick as his running mate? He picked the establishment guy as his running mate. Now, I was ignorant of Joe Biden and who he was in 2008. I was ignorant.
Yeah.
I didn't know that he was the author of the '94 crime bill. I didn't know that.
I don't think a lot of us.
I didn't know.
Was aware because
we
were all first time.
We were excited. We were excited. I was just excited that I can put a black man in office. I didn't even know Obama had a white mom. That doesn't mean anything now. But I think had I known then, I think I would have thought about it differently. But honestly, I'm just being honest.
Yeah, me too.
But if I had known that his vice president pick was not only an established Democrat, but then the dude who constructed the bill that put people that look like him, no matter how educated, in jail, if they made one mistake,
definitely helped reinforce the war on crime.
You know what I'm saying? So I believe that along with some other things, policy-wise, as people started to get more educated, because, and now I will say that I'm not contradicting my statement here. I do believe there were some people that were looking more closely at policy because they were racially motivated. I think that helped out. And now we're looking at policy, and now we've seen policy, and now we understand what policy is. Now when this new guy comes along, Darth Orange, as I like to call him, now we're looking at policy even more furiously and trying to figure out what's going on here.
Yeah.
And I believe beyond just the racial aspect, one of the things that led to his victory was people saw that the guy who wasn't establishment at first lied to their face like everybody else, and he was just an establishment with everybody else. In fact, when President Trump was running, we saw how establishment he was when he was pairing the arm in arms with George W., the guy who took us to war for no daggone reason under false pretenses. And now you got independents looking at it, you got Democrats looking at it, you got Republicans looking at it, and you got folks saying, well, hold on. Who's the only guy that could get the Democrats and Republicans together in such a way that they all hate him? And I believe that was another layer. I don't want to put people in such a small box that they don't have the ability to think beyond just race. Because that's the box I've been put in all my life. That's the box you've been put in all your life. If you're brown and you all of a sudden say conservative, independent, possibly Republican. Oh no, definitely don't say Republican. But just say independent gives you some weird looks. And then don't say Republican. You get lynched by your own people.
Oh man,
I mean, exactly just like that. That's exactly they'll crucify you quick.
But we know why.
For yourself.
We know why. I mean, it's
So those people that get on you for being Republican want to actively deny and deflect the history of the Democrat Party. So why don't you just go ahead and do what, as blacks, because some of our celebrity blacks been saying this. Why don't you just go ahead and just do what we should have done a long time ago and hold your goddamn vote instead of just giving it up for free?
I mean, but the argument is, look at what ends up in the White House thing.
It doesn't matter. What can you control?
It does.
No, it doesn't. What can you control?
But
because the black guy in the White House put together an executive order that he signed into law that now the guy we don't like was able to use, and then we think that he somehow made it up. No, it's the black guy that you liked, who went to Harvard, who had all the educational background, who had a fantastic upbringing, who presented himself as a great-looking guy that slickly and slyly, like a fox, slid in a law that says if I don't like you, I can go ahead and lock you up with no due process, and I can keep you as long as I want. It wasn't the brash, blunt, lying, a coochie grabber that we know in the White House now. It wasn't him.
Yeah, I know it wasn't him, but we understand what Obama did it for.
No, there was no reason for him to do it. If he wanted to be, just like when there was no reason for him to do it. What was the real reason? When he got Osama, he didn't need that to get Osama. He was already in the locks of getting him because he had competent people.
Yeah, but at least you can look at it from a perspective of like, okay, when we're talking about terrorism and we're talking about counterterrorism, okay, that's the antithesis for that. If you take Trump and ask him why he would have did that, it's like, come on, man. When he's looking at that from an immigrant perspective.
So I'm gonna ask this. If you were able to find out, if presented with new information, well, hold on. I don't even know I'm asking you that. You are already going to say yes. But it's for this question going to be for other people, because I know you will say yes, because you think. If presented with the proper information to show that President Obama used that for also personal gain, as far as like, not how obvious Trump would do it, but let's just say there was a couple of people who were posting certain things, publishing certain articles that may have told the truth or revealed some things. He made sure that he was able to use that against them, and there's factual evidence about that. How many people outside of you and me who like to think would change their opinion about Obama's use of that law? Exactly. And the reason why is because we're stupid. And the reason why we're stupid is because we're told
they don't dig deep enough.
We're told to only look at his skin. We're not told to look at his policy and everything. Like when you shot me that video, I really paid attention to what D.L. Hewlett was saying. And the funny thing is, the way you talked right now was kind of echoing what he said. But you can go deeper than he was. At no point in time did D.L. Hughley, when he was doing his comparison with Trump and Obama, ever bring up policy? He never brought up policy. He never brought up the things that actually affect Black people, white people, and definitely middle class and low class. I care less about the rich and the elite, but we know that a lot of these laws are for the middle class and the low class and the poor. And he never brought it up. He said the same thing you said. It's like, President Obama was just a better man. I was like, cool, he's a better man. Now, did he actually help us? No. There's a group of people that he did help. Cool, no problem. But every time you bring that up, there's a bunch of Black people who come to the defense like, well, he was America's president. He couldn't just help us, but he helped just one demographic. And just because that demographic includes all different kinds of races doesn't mean that they were supposed to be helped by themselves. He could have helped and also made some ways for other things. The racist guy opened up opportunities to where you, the person who I understand has a lot of good financial understanding, you have a lot of good financial ideas, a lot of good business ideas, where you, because you actually take advantage of them, you will take the time to actually take advantage of those opportunities and actually make moves versus other people who was like, well, I didn't know it existed. Did you go find the information? No, no one told me. Well, hold on. No one has to tell you. That's not how opportunity works. Opportunity doesn't work by me telling you everything that's available to you. Opportunity works by you going to find it.
You gotta go get it. And I'll be the first. Look, I'll be the first one to say I ain't a Trump fan.
Nope.
Okay.
But
But I will say this. Okay.
He's a Cheeto.
He's a business dude at heart, and he is all about leveraging for profit.
Yep.
Okay, and that means that he has opened the floodgates for even the affluent African American community too.
Yeah.
He didn't subjugate us out. Okay, now I'm not rich, but I can understand where money can be made and why it can be made and why it can be made more exponentially when things are put in place.
But you say that, then all of a sudden you're a Trump supporter. But you're not.
You're not.
But
You're just.
He did what he did.
He did what he did. He has his reasoning for doing it. Okay, from his perspective and how he's gotten to where he's gotten financially. Okay, debatable, but he's up there, right? So why wouldn't it be so reasonable to think that he's just going to continue to pave that way as he understands it?
Yeah.
He
so
knows
if as a businessman he wants to make it easier for businesses, then that do for the Black
doesn't
business
care if you're yellow, brown, black, whatever, white. He don't care. He all he sees is that at the end of the day, I look, I'm a businessman. I feel like I can run this country like a business, and we can come out better because of my expertise, my knowledge, what have you. He's not saying that the Dave Chappelles and the Jay-Z's and the Diddy Combs of the world can't come to the table that regard. The only thing that sucks is for those of us who haven't necessarily climbed that ladder yet, we don't really get to experience what he's kind of come into office and done, right? Because everybody's still like, well, what about the 99%? I mean, he doesn't from that level, the things that Obama put in place for the 99%, like you were talking about, why take those away? And I think that's where the bigger negative is for Trump than necessarily his exploits or what's caught on, tape of him saying and stuff like that. It's about what people see as a regression for them and not necessarily a progression in regards to, your social economic status. Because that's really all Trump is concerned with. And he's 100% right when he says he's not a racist dude in that regard.
Yeah, in that regard, that's equal opportunity.
He feels like
as far
the
as
white dude
else,
could make a Benji.
I got some questions.
The white dude could make a Benji. The black dude could make a Benji.
Yep.
Right? Like, seriously. They can both go into the new opportunity zones that, again, Obama didn't really push too hard for those like he could have in his administration 2 times over. I will say that.
But see this, and this is one of the things that people don't understand. Like, I'm not criticizing President Obama for not being able to have opportunity zones, because I believe that his perspective wasn't that of one of a businessman, because he never owned a business. He never knew what it was like to actually work hard to make money. even if most of it from the startup was given to him by his dad. So it's there. You still have to figure out these things. So he's been on the government teat for a long time. So that's what he knows. Nothing wrong with that, right? But like I said, like this is where we can compliment Trump, right? I believe Trump's the kind of racist. If we're gonna put the racist moniker on him, he's the kind of racist that doesn't care where your background is as long as you make profit with them or for him, right?
Yeah.
And he'd be willing to deal with you in meetings, deal with you in the office space, whatever have you.
I.e. Herschel Walker.
Yeah, but he don't want to go home. He don't want to go home with you and he don't want to go home with you. He don't want you to invite you over his house and things like that. That kind of racist I can deal with better, because that racist would still allow me and afford me opportunities to do what I need to do. I call it the Booker T. Washington principle, right? The Booker T. Washington principle was all about infiltration. The reason why racist whites thought he was a good Negro was because he didn't want or present that he wanted political and economic power. But his whole plan the whole time was political and economic power.
Right.
The plan the whole time was the political economic power. So when a group of, and I know these are generalizations, I know we went wrong, but I know this is generalizations. But when we see, I keep on bringing this up, when I see the spelling bee for the last decade, I have yet to see a stage that was not predominantly East Indian people or East Asian people. Whether they be from Korea, China, India, the country India itself, Japan, whatever have you. I have seen it. Oh, that's racist. No, listen, get out your daggone box. I have yet to see truly competitive, over the last decade, truly competitive white American kids and black American kids on the national spelling bee stage. I use that as an example to show that these folks came over here from their caste systems, from systems where they had no chance of moving up. They ain't the same boat as Miss Harris, whose folks were in a decent part of their caste system in India. So she was able to there's a certain status level that comes with that. So she didn't have that low status. But there's a lot of them that come with that low status. And they come with the low status, but they make it here and they use every opportunity that's afforded. That's supposed to be against foreigners and minorities. But they use every opportunity they can get their hands on. And they become the best at what they do. And one of the reasons why no one messes with them is because they've amassed and infiltrated parts of society where they have amassed the economic power and the economic power to have the economic say so that, no, we're not going to have this. For example, affirmative action.
They pull their resources like nobody else on this planet.
Affirmative action just got beat. Affirmative action was for black folks, but there was a group of Asian Americans who argued that it was racist against Asian Americans because affirmative action wasn't equally applied properly because it gave black people slots that they didn't earn. And they took it away from Asian American students who may have had pretty much perfect scores, because they wanted to diversify. When you want to diversify, you don't need affirmative action to do it. Too bad, so sad. They need to meet your standards. And part of me feels like that's kind of true. If you're a black person and you want to go to Harvard, then you need to be the cream of the crop beyond the cream of the crop to go to a Harvard and to go to a Yale. Yale and Harvard aren't white universities. They're universities that have the highest level of intelligent competition. So just be the highest level of intelligent competition.
Yeah.
I mean, Walter Williams over at George Mason University and Dr. Thomas Sowell are black economists that competed in the intelligentsia against these white folks, and some of these white folks were white liberals and some of them were not white liberals, and murdered them intellectually because they worked hard on their craft. They didn't. It ain't like they don't know what racism is. They know what racism is. They grew up in a time where racism was actually real and not this little sorority girl stuff where you call me a name and my feelings get hurt. They grew up in a time where you had to be the best. And you had to compete at a high level, regardless of what your background was. Otherwise, they wouldn't take you seriously. And I believe that we lost some of that with the complacency of being liked by white people. I don't. You know what I'm saying? And when like when you're going around begging to be liked and begging to be loved and begging to be respected, who has the power?
Right. Yeah.
So
now I'm with you because
now they maintain the power and authority because we're begging for being liked and being respected. It's like, hold on. No. I have black attorney generals. I have black lawmakers. I have black congressmen, senators in every level of government. I have black mayors. The current black mayor in Richmond could use some work, but we have these people.
We have it.
We have it. There's nothing blocking us at any level of government at the moment.
Right.
So what's really going on?
We
lost control over.
We lost a sense of collective unity. If I can put it any better than that, there's not. When you look at every different segment of society, there is. Sometimes it's an obvious sense of unity, where it's like, even down to geographical areas. Like, you go out west, and you got Chinatown, Koreatown. And that's where their people are. You know what I'm saying?
New York has the Italy community, the Italian community.
I mean, like what? We got Harlem. We got
Harlem.
Maybe, and then you got But I'm just saying, historically, when you think about black community, it's like, and then it's like Atlanta or like Southeast DC, or these particular areas. We have it, but we don't have it on the scale that we should have it on, and we don't. And in those communities that we do have it, we don't have it appropriately. We're not walking around coveting each other like we should. Like, when we see other black women, being berated, and the only thing we can seem to do is either castrate them or record on our phones and want to laugh about it, like, instead of stepping in when they're being berated and talked down to and all of this, and really being champions for one another, like these other segments of society are. And we don't pool our resources near enough. We just don't. Everybody is so set on just making it for themselves that we've got some little glimmers of light that we've seen recently in the past couple of years with gentlemen paying off the Morehouse College graduates this last cycle, and stuff like that. I know there's stuff behind the scenes too, that are being done maybe by some former CEOs and other black philanthropists.
And honestly, I don't think they need to move out in the open. I think it's best to move in silence. I think
it is best to move in silence. But again, when the deal's
done, then you unveil.
Yeah, but your own, like, we should have a better radar sense of like who those people are. Not until it's made national news and the controlled media decides to shine.
There you go. There you go.
Word
controlled media.
Like the visual of this stuff. What happened to? I guess the answer is we've kind of integrated. So.
And we were satisfied. We were satisfied with being liked.
Where we weren't liked, and we weren't, we were subjugated to certain parts of the country otherwise against our own, wants and means. But when we did it, this is what gave rise to things like Black Wall Street and
and several Black Wall Streets. We keep on people keep on talking about that one Black Wall Street like it's something that exists.
Right.
I come to find out through more learning, because that's one of the things we have a bad habit of not doing, that there was multiple
Right. I mean, look at Richmond. Look at Richmond, and look at like places like Jackson Ward and Blackwell, even south side of Richmond. We were predominant.
We had our own Harlem down here.
Right. And it's like that level of just awareness has kind of died off or just worn off with how we've spread out, how we
let me ask you this
we
question.
don't conversate with each other. Like if you see another black dude,
me and you rare in this and how we do this. Yeah.
If you see another black dude at the barbershop, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like we know what that is. It's a black barbershop, right? So everybody's kind of comfortable with that. And then, but you really, the barber knows his patrons, right? Mm-hmm. He'll strike up a conversation with you. You're a patron, but the patron, I don't know you. So then it's like there's like almost no conversation. Like the barbershops, salons, places where we, we would normally congregate, there should be networking out the yin-yang. But it doesn't happen.
Oh, by the way, I found it interesting. I'm going to ask you a question to follow. I found it interesting. You posted a meme about the center of was the center of the white community or the center of the Jewish community?
Yes, how they in their own
which one was it? Was it white or Jewish?
I think it was just white in general.
Just white. Okay, yeah. Because I didn't want you to get Nick Cannon.
But just how like we don't have a center on understanding our financial growth.
Yeah, but I don't think white people do either as a community.
Oh, they do.
No, look, hold on. Let me break it like this. There's a group of elites in every society that understands what financial wealth is. White people just happen to be the racial majority of this country. So more of them kind of have an average income because based on their numbers. But if we were in, let's say, Uganda, then the racial elite who knows how to deal with their finances will be black. You know what I'm saying? I think it's circumstances based on geographical location, but I think it's not inaccurate, but I think it's a little bit misleading to assume that some of the white people I've seen around where we live understand finances better than you and me.
I will say this: I didn't make the meme.
No, it was just me. It was just me. Yeah.
But overall, I mean, we do agree that
I don't think the church is centered on the black community. I think the church is centered on the white community. Well, whatever church
is what?
I think the church is actually the church. Excuse me, the Christian nation summation is a fundamental root, I believe, of both the white and the black community. But because blacks did not have a separate, I think what the nuance of the meme should go to is because blacks didn't have a separate establishment beyond the black church, that's why that was where we did our political gatherings, our socioeconomic gatherings. We talked about that. Like that was the center of everything. Yeah. Because we didn't have separate establishment. Until we started taking over a little bit.
We never really got outside of that spiritual realm to really, okay, we can talk about passing the plate and putting a little in for the tithe and all of that, but that's basically the end of the financial conversation.
You're passing the plate for the builder fund.
Yeah, like that's all that's kind of revolving in people's heads when it comes to money and the circulation of money in our own community. Okay, it's like take that scenario of being in church and dropping $5 in the plate, right? And you understanding what the intention of that $5 is supposed to go to, okay? And it come into fruition in the manner of maybe the church buys some property around the church, or they set up a daycare center, and you can see the fruit of that labor, of that collective labor. Yeah, now let's times that. Let's follow me on this. Let's times that by 1,000, and as far as what could come out of that in establishing college funds, right? For just the congregation, right? Y'all, if you got kids, raise your hand. Okay, everybody's putting in for little Tremontre to go to college, right? Like, there's so many black churches in America that even if just 1 or 2%, if we started to really hone in on where we gather and how we start to really keep our dollar in our community.
Yeah.
The church is a good focal point. Now, as long as ain't nothing underhanded being done where people lose faith in it, because that's a big deal too. But at the same time, people are willing in those spaces, right?
Oh, very willing. I mean, if you look at, based on what you just said, if you look at the Mormon church and the Catholic church, I'm going to use the Mormon because Mormons, I got some Mormon friends and things like that. Jehovah's Witnesses as well. So Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, Catholics. These folks who use the money and the resources of their intake and generate it to build communities, to build structure, to actually be a political and a financial influence in the communities.
Right.
Used to do that, and now I drive by the same black churches in my neighborhood that used to have a daycare center, and they just stopped the daycare. Why did y'all stop the daycare? Well, we couldn't afford it. What do you mean you couldn't afford the daycare?
Right.
You can't afford not to have the daycare. Remember, we're supposed to be moving in a way where we believe in a higher being. And by the looks of it, I need to be a Mormon because they're moving. I need to be a Jehovah's Witness because they're moving. I need to be a Muslim because they have their own police forces in their own community, and they ain't gonna just let some random cops from the local thing just come on in and just police when they have a law that's higher than what the local. You know what?
I just think if we take the cues from what our history has been, how we've basically tried to establish ourselves, but we've done it in different tangents and different points in time that weren't collective enough. You know, you look at Black Panther Party, you know, they're out there trying to do their collective thing, getting food out for kids, you know, doing different drives for education,
protecting the neighborhood from gangsters, gangsters and from police thugs. Yes, it's like,
you know, at some point I feel like we have to zero back in. You know, we've lost a lot of our elder wisdom. You know, people ain't going back to grandma's for dinner. You know what I mean? Grandmas are basically babies at this.
Grandma's in nursing home.
Right. Or, you know, you've got younger generations of family now, okay, because of, you know, teen pregnancy and stuff like that, okay? So I feel like there's a huge wisdom gap. You know, we got the just from an age perspective, we got the Al Sharptons of the world, and I'm just saying from an age perspective of like how we kind of,
it's unrelatable. They're not relatable.
We don't have nobody sitting in our tier of age that's saying, listen, we're kind of swimming in this kind of like 40s to 50s range of where our wisdom is coming from. And it's far and few in between.
Yeah,
it really is.
And then the wisdom that we get that's close to our age bracket is wisdom that we don't like.
Or it's hard. It's hard to even digest it because you feel like, well, what do you know?
Yeah,
like it's almost like you know, there's still a crabs in a barrel kind of mentality of like, you know, one, why should I listen to you? And two, what have you done thus far that is any different from me? And it's very easy to kind of jump in on this negative bandwagon.
Very easy.
But if you're a Morehouse kid that just got his student loans paid off by Robert, what's his name?
Was it Robert Smith?
Smith, yeah. You know, you've got a different perspective about what your own, you know, sense of community uplifting is.
Yeah, because you just saw a billionaire. You saw a billionaire just say, you know what, I got all y'all loans because y'all shouldn't have to pay that anyway.
So let's times Mr. Smith like by 10, right? Let's see how many times and what the ripple effect of that is 10 years down the road from a kid at Morehouse that was a lawyer, and now he's got his own practice, and he's able to serve our community when it comes to litigation, maybe even becoming a lawmaker. You know, as radical as that, you know, use that radical word, you know, it's like we should be pipelining this kind of thing. Because other demographics, that's what they do,
and we used to do that.
They want their kids.
Well, excuse me. Not only did we used to do it, our black bouye, as they call them, our black bouye and our black elites still do. So the elites of our particular demographic, they still do it. But not only do white elites do it, but middle class whites do it. Not only do Indian elites do it, middle class Indians. This is good. This is just basic common sense.
Right.
We want to make sure that the people who think, and I ain't gonna lie to you, I rather. This is why you and me are doing a podcast, because it's not that we have different point of views on the subject that makes this great. It's that we're going in the same direction. We just have a couple of different paths that may divert to get to the same direction, but we're still moving in the same direction. You know, they'll be different if I was doing a podcast with Candace Owens. Candace ain't trying to go in the same direction I'm going in. No, she's not going in the same direction. No matter how many talking points she spew, her and Hawk Nelson, every time they have a podcast, they ain't going in the same direction.
No,
they're going in two opposite directions, and they're getting in there 14 different ways. They both crazy. They both crazy as heck. You know, they both crazy in the tune. So, but if I have a Ron, if I have some other friends of mine who are developing skills, growing their own food, and watch this, just because you were saying it without saying it, taking control of what they can control, right? By controlling what we can control, we can then expand the control beyond just our reach, because you never know how those fingers go. So Rob Smith, he took in control what he can control, which is making a whole boatload of goddamn money. And he took that and said, okay, well, here's something free to create opportunity for you to have an extra layer of financial burden off your back to make your dreams happen. Now, if those Black men decide to not make their dreams happen, that is not Robert Smith's fault.
No.
He gave them the groundwork and the foundation, just like, you know, when everyone wants to reference MLK and Malcolm X, they gave me a groundwork to be able to be effective in my job or not. If I fail in my job, it's not the fault of white supremacy. It's my goddamn fault. Because the foundation that has taken away those barriers, that some of the barriers are still there, but the foundation that has taken the majority of the barriers away is there. So now I can just knock down the wall itself, because the wall's not that strong anymore. The wall's not that big.
It's not even a wall anymore.
Yeah, it is pretty much a curve. It's a curve now.
When you want to put it in perspective, like we're at a point in time that our ancestors wanted.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted for us to be able to have all these opportunities to grab at that they just couldn't grab at. You know what I mean? Like it's so astounding to me that we haven't kind of, just as a community, we haven't really awakened to the fact that, yo, like the door's wide open. Ain't nobody
believe that,
holding us in.
No, they're not. But you know, when you're taught that you're being held in, it's the bear and the chain principle. The bear has a 10-foot chain. The food is put 10 feet where the bear can go. The bear keeps going. The bear, animal, dog, whatever. It keeps going to get to the food. It stops at 10 feet. It can't go no more. It eats the food. Keeps going back and forth. After a while, they take the chain off. They put the food 12, 13, 14 feet away. The bear stops at 10 feet because he still believes that he's in chain. You know, so and that's where many of us are, and that's why when you and I talk the way we talk, folks swear up and down that we're race traders, because how could you possibly think that there's no barriers? Like, because there's none in comparison to what it was.
Right. It's not an illusion.
I told this dude this black guy and this white liberal were trying to argue with me about pulling yourself from the bootstraps mentality. And saying, and they try to be funny with the quote of Martin Luther King, well, you ain't got no boots and no blah. I was like, yeah, MLK was at a point in time where he didn't have no boots.
Right.
I mean, he just didn't, and that's true. He was at a point in time where he didn't have no boots. Then I told him, he was like, well, look, there's trash, and I said, well, look, here's how I think about it now. We're at a point where I can go in the trash, I can find random loose materials and make my own boots. And he said, I wish I had that mentality. I was like, well, why don't you? You know, the brass ring that we're told that we're supposed to be reaching for and grabbing, we don't have to reach for it and grab it anymore. We have the materials to just go make our own brass rings.
Right.
We have the material to go make our
do
own.
it, and it's, you know.
But it's look, the food's 12 feet away.
Right.
And we've been told that we can only go 10 feet.
Yeah. I don't know what it's gonna take. I know there's still a lot of you know, the justice system that plays a part in this when it comes to our community and what's basically allowed after you've been subject to it. And you know marijuana being like the major thing of it.
Drug war, man.
Now it's like it's almost about to be a profit to some people. You know, if you're quote unquote doing it the legal way now, that you can prosper with it, but yet, you know, 35% of the prison population is in there because of that.
Yeah. And somebody joked about it. Someone joked about smoking it. About listening to Tupac and Biggie, even though they weren't alive at the time.
Right. It's just an absurd thing to think about. It's like, man, you know.
And I believe, and you know what? And I believe once again, right? And you know, we'll talk about, and I reiterate again, I believe that, because I know we're running longer than 2 for time, but I believe fundamentally that we have the people in place now to do those things. And look, I'm not being anti-white when I say this, but we don't necessarily need white people to get it accomplished. No. We don't necessarily need their approval. We don't need their likeness, and we really don't even need them to respect us. Because legally speaking, especially with our Second Amendment rights and then other things we have available afforded to us, they can't stop us unless they unify with their level of money and influence. They really can't stop us. And so if we want to see actual fundamental change, I can care less about a goddamn statue. I can care less about I can care less about you taking a knee. I can care less about any of that. I want you to take, now granted, I don't have your money, but I'm just saying, you have the money, influence, and power, you're talking all this trash. Okay, great, fantastic.
Right.
Then Detroit needs to stop looking like the toilet.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Jamel, but you got all this cash trash talking, and if all you did was build a community center, that's not good enough. I'm sorry, community centers aren't good enough.
Put up some housing.
Put up some housing.
I mean,
you want some affordable housing?
You
then
don't let
house. Don't let outside companies.
Detroit. You can get a house in Detroit for I want to say one house is like $100.
They purposely, the local government in Baltimore purposely let it go to crap because they wanted a certain demographic of people to come in and buy it low, so they can remodel it and sell high, so they can improve.
Yeah, I know Baltimore is really low. You can get a duplex for like $1.
So I mean, there's the opportunity is all around us and is waiting for people who look like us to take advantage of it.
We just have to reap it, man.
If we don't, I'm sorry. In this particular case, white supremacy ain't the fault.
No, we just have we have to own what we can actually do.
Yes.
And be actionable.
Yes.
And be unapologetically actionable about it. Regardless, like you were saying, we can't be worried about how it looks. Okay, we just have to really take the bull by the horns and be like, hey, and say, yeah, I'm doing this for my community. There's nothing wrong with saying that because other communities do the exact same thing. Yeah. Now we can share in it with other communities, sure.
Yeah, I don't mind sharing, but that's not why I'm doing it.
It'd be nice if the East End of Richmond was predominantly owned, not just lived in by African Americans.
Yeah.
It's, we're still going to make the news. People still going to do dumb stuff in our communities. Every community has that.
Yep.
Okay. We can't change that. But at the same time, we could probably own at least 2 or 3 of the corner stores.
That'd be nice.
In the neighborhood out of 12, instead of Middle Eastern guys, and no shot at them.
Yeah, they came in and used up.
They came up.
They came in and jumped the opportunity.
But I'm like, yo, the dollar coming in your store is 100% black.
Yeah.
100%.
100%.
But that dollar is going to the Palestinian community.
Yeah.
It's going to the Middle Eastern community. It's not coming back to the black community.
Nope, not at all.
So, it's wanting to change that, and it's inspiring because I'm seeing a lot of people. There's a girl out in Texas just bought a gas station, right?
Nice.
First black gas station. A girl in New York City. She got a hair salon, not a hair salon, but a hair store.
Yeah.
Right.
There was a young lady in Baltimore it's sad that she got robbed and killed over it, but she was like in her early 20s owning a hair store in Baltimore area.
That's what I'm saying.
They're not coming up.
Why should where our dollar goes be dominated by these other communities?
It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be. If we're patronizing it that much, why is the hair industry dominated by the Korean community? Why?
Logically, it should be.
I just don't understand.
I'm excited that when we get into the next podcast, I'm excited to get it set up because I believe the financial piece, and I ain't talking about. There's no offense to the brother, but I ain't talking about Dr. Maurice Watkins, and you get that from somebody. I got that from another commentator. I'm not talking about that nonsense. I'm talking about having a fundamental understanding of having better financial health. It doesn't mean just exploring crypto, idiots. It means there's some other things you gotta do to clean up your stuff too.
And
I've learned a lot from Ron. In this area, and my finances are in a better place. You know that I recently was able to have a credit line of $2,000 because of the principles that you were able to help me understand.
Brother.
And I'm sitting here hold on, I have this measure of debt, and I was still able to get a credit line of $2,000. Okay, no problem.
Yeah, you can have debt and increase your actual gained financial, just by how you establish your debt. Okay, you can. I'm actually pretty excited to kind of get into
that aspect. And I say that because I think it's a good time to end what we're doing.
We're getting close to the cutoff. So
Yeah.
But yeah, man.
But I think this was. I thank you. I do thank you for. First of all, I wanted to make sure people understand this. I thank Ron for his time. He didn't have to invite me on this. He could have been doing this solo. Could have been giving you all kinds of advice. Things. He felt that my opinion brought some perspectives that can help him. But his perspective has really helped me shape my opinion about certain things too, because there's a lot of stuff about, especially from the legal side of things. I'm ignorant of a lot of legal stuff, and he's been educating me legal wise, financial wise. And I'm trying to tell you, the more you engage with us on this podcast, and the more you send us your thoughts, and we can have these conversations, the more we can go ahead and give more back to you. I've really enjoyed the conversations we've had.
Oh yeah. So I definitely, again, I want to, just hit on, give us your feedback. Let us know, our listenership. Let us know what you think. Hit us up on Facebook. We've got Twitter. Twitter is in the middle PC, so it's at in the middle PC1 for Twitter, and in the middle PC for Instagram, as well as Facebook. So please give us a shout. Let us know. Let us know if there's things you guys want to discuss, topics you want to hit on, any old episodes, anything we've discussed. If you want to shed some light on that, we love the interaction. So we do appreciate y'all. I think that's gonna wrap it up for this one, man. It's which side you on. That's what it is.
That's what it is.
Which side you on? We got an election coming up. A lot of things are going on.
It's gonna be a landslide, bro.
It's gonna be
a landslide. I know it. I feel it. It's gonna be a landslide. There's a lot of people that's being real quiet right now, but like I said, that's another conversation for another time. There's a lot of people that's being real quiet, that's seeing what's happening in Portland, that's seeing what's happening in these autonomous zones, that's seeing all these riots happen, and they're like, okay, yeah, Black Lives Matter, Trump. It's gonna happen. I can tell you, and it's gonna be more black men than you think.
This whole turnout's good.
It's gonna be
that's
more
all I'm
black
saying.
men than you think.
60%. That's all that showed up in the last election.
Yep.
It's got to be better than that, man. So
it won't be. It won't be. But hey, who knows, right? So we'll figure it all out. But next time, I'm excited. We're definitely gotta get into the finances. People need to know.
So my last thing here is though, as we wrap up, I just hope people, regardless of what side of the fence you sit on, go vote. Be involved in your local and state elections, because that's what
really pays for the local.
Really governs you, and those are the people that go to Congress and set the national stage. So pay attention to your primaries. Primaries matter just as much as general elections do. County commissioners matter. County elections, board anything. That stuff affects you. So please engage yourself in the civil process, and educate yourself. That's all I got, man.
Facts. Well, with that, we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up, and we'll call it for the night. Look forward to seeing y'all and hearing from y'all next time on In the Middle with Ron and Micah.
Yeah.